The first thing anyone noticed was the waitress's hand shaking as she set the plate down, a barely visible tremor that betrayed the quiet war she was fighting inside, and when she lowered her eyes in shame, the entire café seemed to breathe past her as if she were invisible. No one saw the weight she carried, no one except a little girl whose small finger lifted and pointed, not in accusation, but in recognition of something broken and beautiful at the same time. Before the story unfolds any further, take a moment and ask yourself what kind of world you believe in. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in small moments that change lives forever, then please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this only matter when they are felt, remembered, and passed on. The café sat on a quiet corner, the kind of place that smelled of warm bread and fresh coffee, where mornings moved slowly and afternoons lingered. It was a place where people came to forget the noise of their lives, yet for the waitress, it was where every shift reminded her of everything she had lost. Her name was Clara, and once, long before she tied on the plain gray apron and practiced a smile that never reached her eyes, she had dreamed of becoming a nurse. Life, however, had taken a cruel turn. A sick mother, unpaid bills, a marriage that collapsed under pressure, and a single mistake that cost her everything she thought she was building had pushed her here. Each day, she served plates and refilled cups, while inside her chest, regret echoed louder than the clatter of dishes. Most customers never noticed her beyond the basics. She was efficient, polite, and quiet. Some barely looked up from their phones when she approached. Others treated her like part of the furniture, something functional but unworthy of attention. Clara had learned to accept this. It was easier to shrink than to risk being seen. She kept her hair neatly tied, her back straight, and her voice soft, as though taking up less space might make the ache inside her easier to carry. That morning, a family walked in together, bringing with them a different kind of energy. A father with kind eyes and tired shoulders, a mother whose smile carried both warmth and worry, and between them, a little girl whose curiosity seemed boundless. The girl's eyes wandered everywhere, taking in the hanging lights, the clink of cups, the laughter from another table. She watched people the way children do, without judgment, as if every person held a secret worth discovering. Clara approached their table with the same practiced calm. She wrote down their order, nodded politely, and moved away. Nothing about the moment felt unusual, yet something shifted when she returned with their food. As she placed the plates down, her hand slipped slightly, causing a spoon to clatter against the saucer. The sound was sharp and sudden, cutting through the low hum of the café. Heat rushed to Clara's face. She murmured an apology, her shoulders tensing as she braced for irritation or dismissive sighs. Instead, there was silence. Clara kept her gaze fixed downward, staring at the polished surface of the counter, wishing she could disappear into it. Years of disappointment had trained her to expect the worst, to assume that even small mistakes confirmed what she already believed about herself. She did not see the father's understanding glance or the mother's gentle patience. What she felt was the familiar sting of shame, heavy and immediate. Then the little girl leaned forward. Her small finger lifted, pointing not at the fallen spoon, but at Clara's wrist, where the sleeve of her uniform had slipped back slightly. There, faint but unmistakable, was a scar. It was not dramatic, not something most adults would notice or mention, but to a child's honest eyes, it was a story written on skin. The girl's gaze lingered there, her expression thoughtful, not frightened or curious in a shallow way, but deeply attentive. Clara noticed the pointing and instinctively pulled her sleeve down, her breath catching. That scar was a reminder of her lowest night, the night she had believed she was completely alone. She had survived it, but the mark remained, a silent witness to pain she never spoke about. Her chest tightened as she waited for judgment, for questions, for that look people gave when they sensed weakness. But the little girl's face softened. She did not recoil or laugh or whisper. She simply looked at Clara with an intensity that felt almost sacred, as if she were seeing something precious. In that moment, the café seemed to fade, and Clara felt something she had not felt in years. She felt seen. Children often sense what adults overlook. Where grown-ups saw a waitress who spilled a spoon, a child saw someone who had been hurt and was still standing. The girl's finger slowly lowered, and her eyes met Clara's face. There was no fear there, only quiet understanding. It was the look of someone who recognized pain because they themselves had felt it in smaller, simpler ways, like scraped knees and broken toys, moments when comfort mattered more than explanations. Clara swallowed hard, her throat tight. She forced a smile, but this time it trembled for a different reason. Something inside her shifted, just slightly, like a door creaking open after being shut for too long. As the family ate, Clara found herself glancing back at the table more than usual. She noticed how the father listened attentively to his daughter, how the mother brushed crumbs from the girl's dress with gentle care. There was something grounding about them, something that reminded Clara of what life could feel like when love was present, even imperfectly. Memories surfaced of her own childhood, of sitting at a kitchen table while her mother hummed softly, of believing that the world was a place where things would somehow work out. For the rest of her shift, Clara moved differently. The weight did not vanish, but it shifted. The knot in her chest loosened enough for her to breathe more deeply. She found herself standing a little straighter, making eye contact a little longer. One small moment of recognition had done what years of silence could not. It reminded her that she was still human, still worthy of compassion. When it came time for the family to leave, Clara braced herself again, expecting nothing, preparing for the familiar emptiness of another transaction completed and forgotten. She cleared the table slowly, giving herself time, unsure why her hands felt unsteady all over again. On the table, beneath an empty plate, she found a folded napkin. Inside was not money or a phone number or advice. It was a simple drawing, clearly made by a child. A small figure stood beneath a bright sun, a bandage on its arm, a smile on its face. Above it, written in uneven letters, were words that pierced straight through Clara's defenses. They said that she was strong and that being brave sometimes meant just showing up. Clara stared at the drawing, her vision blurring as tears finally spilled over. She pressed the napkin to her chest, feeling something warm bloom where numbness had lived for too long. That little girl had seen past her uniform, past her mistake, past her shame. She had seen survival. She had seen courage. That night, Clara walked home under a sky dusted with stars, the city quieter than usual. She replayed the moment again and again, the pointing finger, the gentle eyes, the drawing left behind. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future not defined solely by her past. Maybe she could take a class again. Maybe she could volunteer. Maybe she could forgive herself. Days turned into weeks, and Clara kept the drawing tucked safely in her bag. Whenever the weight threatened to crush her again, she took it out and remembered how it felt to be seen without judgment. Slowly, she began to change. She smiled more genuinely. She spoke with coworkers instead of avoiding them. She even started researching night courses, daring to believe that her old dream might not be completely out of reach. The café did not change, but Clara did. She learned that healing did not always arrive in grand gestures or dramatic rescues. Sometimes it came in the form of a child's quiet understanding, a moment so small it could be missed by anyone not paying attention. Just before this story ends, I want to ask you for something special. Please take a moment to comment below and share what you think the little girl truly saw in the waitress, or share a time when someone saw something in you that changed your life. As Clara stood at the counter one evening, watching the doors open and close, she realized that shame had once taught her to look down, but kindness had taught her to look up again. The world had not suddenly become easier, but it had become softer. And sometimes, that is enough to begin again. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something real, please like the video, share it, and leave a comment. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive, reminding us all that even in a crowded room, a single moment of compassion can change everything.